Well,
Mm.
the ball's kicked. I sprint downfield as hard as I can go, and I see this opening for me. My instincts are telling me, okay, like that ball carrier, he's gonna try to run through that gap, but I'm gonna stop him. And actually, I'm not just gonna stop him. I'm going to destroy him. That, that was my football mentality. Like,
A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Hey, choose the better story. Yeah.
All right, so welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Choose the Better Story podcast. My name's Ryan, and this is a podcast about vision, mindset, performance, and purpose. And I am really, really excited. I have a guest on the show today, Chris Norton. Chris is a motivational keynote speaker who was told he had a 3% chance of ever moving below his neck. And I'm going to let him tell the story in just a second of how he found himself in that situation. And beforehand, I wanted to send Chris some questions of what I'm going to ask during the interview. And his response is, well, it'd probably be more helpful if you just watched my movie. And there's a documentary called 7 Yards on Amazon and I believe Apple TV that I watched, and it had me in tears. Incredible watch. So if you're interested in watching documentaries, make sure to check the story out of, it's called 7 Yards, the story of Chris Norton. Chris is also a best-selling author, founder of the Chris Norton Foundation, husband to Emily, father to 5 children, plus 23 that we fostered. And I'm extremely excited to welcome to the show Chris Norton. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
yeah, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, this will be good. So I'm going to tell the story of how we met. The last few episodes, I've been telling the listening audience that I'm in this coaching gig, becoming a meta performance coach. And Chris is actually one of the guys that is in my cohort. And the first time I met Chris was in October. And Chris was a guy that showed up to the class and he's in a wheelchair. And the first thing I noticed is Chris is the nicest, most compelling guy. But then we played a group game in our cohort, and Chris just cleaned all of our clocks. He whooped all of us. He was the winner of the game, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's something special about this guy. I have got to get to know more about him. And we recently went back to Georgia a couple weeks ago and got to reconnect. And at that time, I thought it was super cool, Chris, that you came up to me and you inquired about me and my story. And just through that conversation, I found out a little bit about your story, and I was just like immediately, oh my goodness, people, more people. I know a lot of people already know your story, but more people need to know about who you are and how you are choosing the better story in your life. So, thanks again for spending your time, Chris, to join us for the show today.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ryan. You got to see me in my best element. I love games. I love competition, and it could be rock, paper, scissors, and I want to win. But I will tell myself, actually, so it was like a rock, paper, scissors game that you were referring to that I won.
Yeah.
Actually, going into it, it's probably one of the first times in my life where I actually was telling myself, I hope I lose. I had this. What was coming up for me was I can't, for the audience that I know you're listening, I can't form rock, paper, or scissors with my
Mm,
hands. Actually, I could
mm,
probably do rock. I have like a rock that's like nonstop. So then I said I didn't want people to think I was cheating, but I also
sure.
wanted to participate. So I made a rule. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna look you in the eyes and I'll tell you what I'm doing. And I predetermined whether I was going to do rock, paper, or scissors before we even did the countdown so that it was fair and honest. And I kept winning. And in the back of my head, like a story that I was telling myself was that I wonder if people are thinking I'm cheating. And I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm cheating. And so I'm like, I hope I lose. I hope I lose. And I kept winning. And I went all the way to the championship. And again, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I just wanted to lose. I wanted to just like fly on the radar, which again is like, okay, why do I want to fly on the radar? Like, why can't I just be my competitive self, which was really interesting to me. But then I won the whole thing, which was the ironic. I think the guy was just kind of pushing me out there and say, go.
Yeah. Well, I was the opposite. I wanted to win and I lost right away.
Yeah, well, my second round, I lost right away too. We did it the second time, but
Yeah. Well, let's, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? Tell us about your family growing up, your parents, maybe where you grew up, a little bit about, yeah, your parents, your siblings. What did that look like for you?
yeah, I grew up small town Iowa, just outside of Des Moines. I feel like we lived the best of both worlds, where it was that small town. I think I graduated with 100 kids in my class. Kind of everybody knew everybody, but then it was like 15-minute drive to get to downtown Des Moines, which, Des Moines not like a Los Angeles or anything, but it's a fairly decent sized town. It's the biggest town, city in Iowa. So I love having both worlds. I was the middle child. I had two sisters, older sister Alex, younger sister Katie. So the two girls kind of spoiled me, loved on me, and
Hmm.
yeah, just great upbringing. Sports was a huge deal. Competition was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Then also just, I mean, if there's a family gathering, like my parents are coming tomorrow to Florida, where I live now, and we will be playing games the entire time that they're there. Like we will play cards, we'll play dice, we'll play you name it. Like we will be playing a game. There's never a dull moment at the Norton household.
Yeah, well, if history repeats itself, then and what you did when we got together at our coaching cohort, your family's in a real in some hot water because you're going to bring the heat.
That's right.
That's for
That's
sure.
right.
So tell us a little bit about like describe yourself as a teenager. I know you said sports. What were the sports that you were like passionate about?
Football and basketball were my two loves. I
Hmm.
did track out of, I felt like obligation because a lot of my football coaches were track coaches also, and they kind of pressured you to do track. And I also knew it would help me
Sure.
with basketball and football. And then I also did a lot of baseball growing up. In high school, it was just too much. Iowa, you can actually do four sports.
Hmm.
Baseball is a summer sport. So technically,
Okay.
you could do four. I tried doing four my freshman year. That was too much. So I
Yeah.
went to the three. But
Sure.
most of my life was consumed with those three sports activities. I loved just hanging
Hmm.
out with friends. Fun fact, though, a lot of people don't know this. I did do group improv in high school. And
Okay.
we actually made it to like state. We won our districts. We went to state. We almost made it to the finals. But I loved group improv. I had like three other guys that would all do it. And my designated character, because every situation is different, but something that we found was just like a good mix with no matter what the scenario was. I was always a blind guy. I don't
Hmm.
know. I just was always played the blind guy, and it just a lot of interesting things would happen. So I'm kind of surprised. I ended up as a quadriplegic. I didn't end up as blind, so maybe it wasn't punishment for that, but it was a good, fun experiment.
Right. So I'm gonna have you like unpack the story of how things dramatically change for you, but I'm really curious, Chris, like you probably told the story countless times. Does it ever bother you to like retell the story? Does it like, I don't know, how does that land on you?
Not at all. Yeah, like I said, I tell it all the time. And also, I mean, early on when I told it, I could just realize like the impact that it has. Like people
Hmm.
really want to lean in. It's an experience that a lot of people just can't ever imagine. It's their worst nightmare. And then I
Right.
can just tell it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I was completely conscious the entire time as well. So I can
Hmm.
put as much detail or not into the story. And yeah, it's something that doesn't bother me.
Well, let's go there then. Why don't you take us back to that day where things dramatically changed for you? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I was a 18-year-old kid. We freshman in college at Luther College. Sixth game of the season, the third quarter, and we're getting our butts kicked, but we're mounting a little bit of a comeback. We had just scored a touchdown, cutting it to a two-score game. I run out to the field for the kickoff. Now, at 18 years old, I felt like I was on top of the world. Well,
Mm.
the ball's kicked. I sprint downfield as hard as I can go, and I see this opening for me. My instincts are telling me, okay, okay, like that ball carrier, he's gonna try to run through that gap, but I'm gonna stop him. And actually, I'm not just gonna stop him, I'm going to destroy him. That, that was my football mentality. Like
That's
I
right.
hitting people. I was made for defense. You put the helmet on me, there's like a switch that
Hmm.
just flipped, and I just loved it. Yeah, I can. It's the only way I can explain it. And I love it when I hear other football guys explain that same experience of being this nice guy to all of a sudden like you're this gladiator warrior running down the field, like fighting for your life, kind of
Mm.
thing. Uh, so I'm sprinting down there and I hit him at full speed, full force, but I had mistimed my tackle
Mm.
by split second. And this guy, he was a beefy dude. Like he wasn't like a halfback. He was the up back, which is like the guy who's pretty much like a middle linebacker, fullback type build.
Yeah.
So they're like a thick bowling ball that caught the ball because it was a mortar kick, like a short, high arching kick to the
Yeah.
right side of the field. And so when I hit him, it was like a big hit, got him mostly with like my head inside my neck. I
Mm.
took him down, but when I went to the ground, I heard the collisions. I just couldn't get up. It was weird. Like, okay, like stand up. Uh, Nothing was working.
Oh,
I was embarrassed at first. I'm like, this is embarrassed. Like, I don't want the game to stop for me. Like, that's the
right.
last thing I wanted as the tough guy. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
shake it off. I'm gonna play the next one. I'm gonna play through it. I don't
Hmm.
need the attention. Like, just let me get to the sideline with my teammates. Uh, the athletic trainers, though, they were on top of it. They ran out. They came like right next to me and asked me questions like, "Chris, can you make a fist with your hand?" And nothing happened. Chris, can you feel us touching your leg? Nothing. They roll me onto my back. I'll never forget when I rolled to my back. The first person I see wasn't the head athletic trainer, but a student athletic trainer. And I
Mm.
could just see in her face,
Mm.
she is terrified.
Yeah.
And I kind of like filed that away, but I was like, that's interesting.
Mm.
Like, well, why is she so scared? And then maybe some people too, like listening to this, like, okay, Chris, how are you not terrified at this point? But I've always been a glass is half full, nothing bad's gonna happen, it's all gonna work out. And even if when bad things do happen, I have this just through my life a natural way of just pushing to the side, avoiding it, ignoring it, and
Yeah.
just pretending like everything's okay. Like I've always done this. It's been a survival tactic
Mm.
of mine. And so I was really good at just pretending or explaining away why this was happening, like a bad stinger. Well, as time went on and they called in for, the paramedics, and then the paramedics check me out, they give me a stretcher, and they call in for a helicopter. And
Mm.
that's when the alarm bells were starting to ring.
Yeah.
But again, I'm trying to zone it all out. I have my eyes closed too this whole time. Just again, another kind of survival tactic of just avoiding it, ignoring it.
Right.
It's okay. My parents, they come down. They're telling me Chris is gonna be okay. Like we're here for you. But I
Yeah.
could hear the worry in their voices.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, maybe the loudest like concern, like the one where like the I don't know, it's like sealing the nail in the coffin for me was when I was being wheeled across the field on the stretcher. And if you've been to a sporting event, the crowd,
Yeah.
they clap
Yeah.
for the injured athlete, and
Hmm.
then the injured athlete waves, gives them a thumbs up to let them
Yeah.
know they're gonna be okay. And so I try to give a thumbs up. This has
Mm.
been after like, 15, 20 minutes in the field. I still couldn't move a thing.
Wow.
And it hit me. It just dawned on me, like, wow, I have been to so many games. I have watched so many games,
Yeah.
and never once have I ever witnessed a time when the athlete couldn't acknowledge the crowd somewhat.
Mm,
And it just whoosh. That was kind of like a huge realization. I'm like, wow, this is bad. This is really bad. Like there
yeah.
was no explaining it away at that point. But I do wish I could have gone back to that moment to been the first athlete to ever give a thumbs down. Like, not doing so good. You, you can all quit clapping now.
Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah, not good
Oh
at
my
all.
goodness.
But if you ever see somebody do that, like let's give credit where credit's due. Like that was my idea.
Hmm.
That's never been done. Um, Not yet.
Okay, so then you had a helicopter trip, found yourself then in the hospital.
Yeah.
Um, I'm assuming like uh watching the documentary, you kind of recounted the story. Like, describe the moment when this actually became real to you. Like, I mean, yeah, you said you were on the stretcher and you realized, okay, this is a big deal. Like, I can't even give the thumbs up. But was there a moment, at the hospital or in the helicopter where you're like, oh my goodness, you understood like your life was gonna be permanently different? And what do you remember feeling at that time?
Yeah, I think it was when so I get in the helicopter, fly from Decorah to Mayo Clinic. They rushed me through a series of check scans, x-rays to prepare me for emergency surgery. When I finally get to the operating room, and there's been a lot of things leading up to this, the surgeon comes in, he asks, "Do you have any questions?" And I had one question I've been wanting to ask, but I had been too scared to ask it this entire time.
Yeah,
And in my mind, I felt like, okay, like let's let the doctors or the medical staff do all their exams so they have as much information to give me the best possible answer to this question. I
sure.
felt like this was my time. And so I asked him, will I walk again?
Mm,
He shrugs his shoulders and says, I don't know.
mm,
I was at that point no longer able to hold back any tears that I had, and just
mm,
all the emotions just kind of poured out of me. It was devastating. I remember as they put like the mask over my face to put me to sleep, seeing the other nurses, like eyes watering, tears coming down.
mm.
It was uh yeah, a moment that impacted that whole room.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to just rest there in the moment because as you're telling the story, when people are hearing this, like I know they're going to put themselves, in your shoes. That's just extremely, extremely heavy. How did how do you feel like your identity changed after the injury, especially coming from a sport where your body was your strength, and like you said, when you put that helmet on, you became a different person. That switch turned on, you became a warrior, a gladiator. How do you feel like your identity changed? Obviously you went into the surgery, you came out, and then you had to live out your new reality, but do you feel like your identity changed in any way? And what did that look like for you in the weeks
Yeah,
after?
definitely went into like identity crisis
Hmm.
because I had built my life around the identity of being this strong, accomplished athlete who isn't afraid of anything, won't back down to anyone, anything. And then now I'm lying helpless in the bed. I can't even scratch an itch on my face.
Yeah.
I can't feed myself. I can't go to the bathroom.
Hmm.
But there's like I can't do anything. It's like, who am I? Like when I've wrapped, yeah, that identity over something that was external, that was outside of myself, outside of God, it just had me at a complete loss. And it made me think, well, man, is my life over? Like, will anybody care about me? Will anybody value me or love me if I don't have this strength, this thing, like, which just tells you just how much I put into the strength or how much I valued and cared about it.
Yeah.
But in time, I would slowly realize the thing that I was like cared so much about was actually the thing that people cared very little about. They didn't
Mm.
care about the external accomplishments or what I can or can't do. They actually cared about like the person I was, like my character and the love that um, I have and can bring to the world. And I had to realize that for myself. I had to rediscover my identity and my true identity.
Yeah.
Nothing that um, has that shaky foundation that can be taken away from you. But
Sure.
yeah, it was definitely an existential crisis for me because the next morning when I wake up was when the surgeon told me I had a 3% chance of ever moving below the neck, which
Mm.
isn't a 3% chance to walk. A lot of times people will associate with that, but it was like a 3% chance to, like I said, scratch an itch from my face
To just move. Yeah.
to move.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was absolutely devastating. I was kind of felt like I was in the twilight zone where I had almost questioned reality. I'm like, is this my life? Like,
Mm.
no, like this can't be my life. Like this is not how I picture my life going at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of felt like the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious, and again, please don't equate what I'm about to say to like what you've gone through. But when we were talking in Georgia, I was telling you the story of the campfire and losing everything and how it changed our life dramatically overnight. Obviously, you had something in your life that dramatically changed every aspect of your life, just like that. It's interesting when you process stuff like that, like the world goes on, like life goes on for everybody else. And here you're like, you're basically having to grieve the version of yourself that used to be.
Yeah.
And like, and trying to wrap your mind around what your new reality is going to be. Like, um, did you ever find yourself frustrated with like, man, like people are just moving on and my life is like radically changed? Or did you feel like you had the support you needed to walk through that season really well?
You know, I felt like I had good support to like I felt like I was going through it as a
Mm.
family, like together, like with my friends. I was worried that I would lose people that I
Yeah,
cared about. Again, I was questioning my worth and my value
sure.
without those things, but people kept showing up. My family never wavered, and they kind of just reinforced that, hey, like you're not alone in this. We got you. My faith uh, never became stronger in that moment.
Mm.
I would describe my faith life as like a break glass in case of emergency faith. And
Yeah.
so when I really needed God, I'd pray to God. And this was definitely a moment where I needed to break glass and had an emergency, but it also helped then like tether me to God in a way that I've never been tethered to Him and dependent on Him because everything around me was telling me that, life is over and this is how it's going to be. And the doctors and surgeons weren't very optimistic about where things would go from there. But I believed in God's promises that, plans to prosper me and not to harm me, plans for a hope and a future. And so I believed in that, like that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how it could ever be possible. And I did have this conversation with God. I'm like, hey, I know you don't make mistakes, but I think you just did it. I think you just made it. Um, I know, like it's pretty crazy after all these years, but I think
Mm.
this is the one. But after wrestling with those questions, I kept surrendering it, not willfully, but just out of obedience, and just was like, okay, like let's see what you can do and I'm going to do my part. And so every single day was like, okay, like how can I transform my life? Like how can I get out of this situation?
Mm,
So it was, I had this urgency that I have to get out of here. Like I got to move on as fast as possible. But getting back to your question though, I did feel that support, but there was definitely times, well, the hardest time, honestly, some of my hardest times came when it was the weekend, when my therapy would slow down because I would get so engrossed in my therapy and like that's all I could think about all day long. It's like kind of like my work week. But then the
yeah.
weekend came, there was less therapy.
Mm,
Well, the weekend was when my entire life, my family was the same way. Like we're very busy people. Like we love activities, we love events, we love being social, doing things. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden it just slowed down and I had nothing to do
Mm,
really, besides hang out with my family. And and a lot of times, I mean, my friends did a good job of visiting, but I knew like what I would have been doing in college and what I was missing out on, and that would just sucker punch me,
sure.
just because I am that social kid. And so there's those moments where, yeah, life was still going on, and I'm stuck in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're talking about this time frame, you're still in the hospital during this time? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, physical therapy during the week keeps you active, keeps you focused on, trying to see small improvements. The weekend, it's kind of like you're left there to sit in your own thoughts.
yep.
And probably, I mean, based on what you said, I'm assuming that was a challenge for you. How do you feel like, was there a point when you actually had to grieve? Because I mean, I can just imagine your prayers to God, like, hey, God, I think you might have made a mistake on this one. And begging, I would imagine just begging and pleading with God, like, help me recover in some way, do a miracle here. And then when it's not happening, like, there has to have been a point where you had to grieve the version of you that used to be like an intense, I would imagine that was an intense grieving process. Like, how did you move your way through that so you could like really focus on what was ahead?
Yeah, the grieving process, it's definitely not one and done. It's
Right.
it's multi-layered, multifaceted, it's
Hmm.
complex, complicated, messy. But yeah, it's been an ongoing process for easily, I don't know how long ago it was, almost was 16 years. Yeah, about 16 years that happened. And I mean, there's still probably things that I'll need to
Yeah,
grieve. It's an onion, like there's layers to it.
sure.
And so I think as time has gone on, there's less to grieve. But yeah, no, I had to certainly grieve the things that I couldn't do, the things like my dreams of
Hmm.
being this football star. I remember like very vividly my coming into college, like I was going to be an all-American football player, marry the girl of my dreams, and then make enough money to buy a lake house. I love going to the lake, or better yet, the girl of my dreams family would already own a lake house.
Yeah, there you go.
But I just felt like those aspirations were just engulfed in flames in an instant. And so just, yeah, come to terms with that. And but also part of it then fueled me to be like, I don't want this to be my story. I don't want this to be my story that like life is over and it's
Hmm.
all doom and gloom. I couldn't imagine just living that way. And so the first thing I really try to do is just take responsibility for like, well, what can I do? Like there's
Wow.
still a lot that I can do like right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm in control of my thoughts. I'm in control of my effort, and God give me the strength to surrender what I can't control, but give me the strength to focus on what I can. And so I really made that um, something that I've honed down on because well, in a particular moment, I remember like the second week. and I was in the occupational therapy gym. I'm working on curling my left arm, and my goal was to be able to feed myself. Getting the muscles to fire was a huge struggle. Well, the OT, she grabs this half-pound ankle weight, velcros it around my hand and wrist, and when I look at the weight though, it's like 50 pounds. My own body weight was heavy enough. Well, as soon as I curl this weight, my arm's shaking. I'm doing everything in my power to get this weight to my shoulder. And when I do, my family and OT laid out this like huge cheer. It was so exhilarating, like I had scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
But then I flashed back to 2 weeks earlier when I was in my college football weight room curling a 35-pound dumbbell with
Mm.
ease.
Yeah.
In the middle of celebrating that, measly half pound, my cheers turned to tears.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, is all this effort really gonna matter?
Yeah.
Uh, so I had to face moments like that where you doubt tries to take you out and you
Right.
question your own efforts and if it's worth it. And that's where I had to really hone in on like not comparing myself to where I was or even where I'm trying to go, but just like what can I do like right now to the best of my ability,
Yeah.
and just let go of everything else and just be extremely present of like I am going to do 10 arm curls. Like, and if like that was the goal, and then it's gonna be another 10, then it's 15. And it was just really staying locked into that moment because I think it's so easy to allow, fear to rob us of what we can do.
Sure. Yeah, and and quite frankly, and I'm glad you said that, you would have had every reason or every excuse to let fear just run the rest of your life. But I mean, you said at the beginning you've always kind of been like a glass half full kind of guy. And let's talk about that because the doctors gave you a 3% chance of ever moving below the neck, and now you're talking about, curling. Let's talk a little bit more about that. How have you defied the odds? What does that process look like for you? What have you been doing to defy the odds?
Yeah, kind of what I was saying, it's just like one day at a time, one session at a time, and not allow like your fear and the stories that you have for yourself just throw you off track.
Right.
It also takes, I think, a faith. I think faith is a huge part. Having support, like having people around you who are encouraging you and believe in the best of your abilities. It
Yeah.
takes some stubbornness, all right, to be able to say, hey, like this might be the odds, but I'm gonna beat it.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's been a lot of different factors that I can go into one more than the other, but it's multi-layered, and yeah, I think those are kind of the big ones for me that
Well,
really kind of helped keep me
let's
here.
talk about I mean, in the documentary, you did a really good job talking about two really big walks that you took. Graduation, and then I'll let you talk about the other big walk, the 7 yards walk. Um, like t talk to us a little bit about that, like setting a goal for that, which was incredible, by the way. That was a part that was like super emotional to see you actually pull that off. Um, but like, why were these two milestones so significant for you?
Well, they were significant for me because uh, when you're first injured, you're obsessed with walking. You just think like, oh man, if I can just walk, my life would be so much better. And is that true? Maybe, right? Like, like certainly would give you independence, but like we all know people who are walking who are miserable, who
Yeah,
hate their lives. And so I just had this story that like, oh, walking equals happiness equals bliss and peace and freedom. And it's like, anyway, I had to like pursue that goal full out to really understand, like, you know what, maybe that isn't the secret sauce to life. I don't think that was ever God's design
Hmm.
for, yeah, happiness and joy. So anyway, I would train, oof, like sometimes 6, 8 hours a day,
Hmm.
um, nearly every day to just get some movement back and some strength back. And I went back to college. I had a full class load that I
Yeah.
was working on. So it was nonstop, but I had this goal that was bigger than me. I also believed that this goal would also inspire other people and
Hmm.
to give me hope and encouragement. So I felt this pressure of like I need to, give other people something to believe in
Yeah.
when life gets hard. And so yeah, I just sold out to try to make it happen. Um, and then which walk did you want me to?
Well, I mean, you had the graduation walk and you had your wedding day walk. Both, I mean, it appeared from the documentary, took an immense amount of training, which you just talked about, but like, I think what inspired me when I watched the documentary was like in terms of the graduation, when you're like, it was basically, I'm going to do this, and even if I fall, I'm still going to do it. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, this guy is a beast. His mentality is like in beast mode right now. What was that like to one graduate, but to actually walk across the stage? What was that like for you?
It was surreal. Like going into that walk, I had been training 4.5 years for. I had told all these people that I'm going to walk across the stage, and in doing so, I wanted to, yeah, inspire the world. And what was really interesting was, I news media cover my story some there locally and throughout the state about my injury, about my recovery, and the work I was doing with my foundation.
Hmm.
There were people planning on coming to film it. And come that Memorial weekend, I had just proposed to Emily the day before, which was really special. I was way more nervous proposing to her than potentially falling in front of thousands of people. And thankfully, she said yes. Otherwise, the next day would have been really awkward because
Yeah.
she was the one who helped me walk across the stage. Well, I remember as we're celebrating the engagement, like getting a text that they weren't going to be coming. That I think someone had like a cameraman sick, somebody else was like traveling for that weekend with their
Mm.
family, and I remember thinking like, man, like this is too bad. Like we're not going to have people there to capture this moment because I, was hoping to inspire people, but I'm like, you know what, that's okay. Like the people in that room, there's gonna be someone in that room who needs to see that moment.
Yeah.
But I had already like paid a buddy like a couple $100 to film the engagement and then to also just film the graduation walk. And so come that day, I was so nervous. I almost felt like vomiting. I was so nervous. But then when I stood up, the crowd just erupted. Because in my another story I was telling myself was, I'm gonna get booed off the stage. I'm gonna take up so much time trying to
Mm.
walk across the stage. Graduations, they're long, they're boring. Like, let's just get this show on the road. And here I
Yeah.
am
Get it over
taking
with. Right.
my time across the stage, but it's completely false. Everybody just loved it and cheered. And I'm looking around the room, people are just wiping their eyes. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, wow, that was a special moment. Well, afterwards, my buddy put that video together and we put it out and it just went viral.
Yeah.
It just exploded all across YouTube and social media. I was getting calls like left and right from NBC Nightly News, CBS Morning News, Good Morning America, and Inside Edition, like you name it, like every media you could think of was contacting us, and it was like drinking out of a fire hose, go like jumping to all these different media outlets. I remember waking up early morning and it was NBC Nightly News. We're like, hey, can we have a crew over there in like 1 hour? Like, sure. Like we just woke up, but like I don't know
Mm.
how you can work that fast. It was pretty amazing. But what was special about it was it was almost a blessing that there wasn't this extra media crew covering it and having these different videos or different angles. I think it would have diluted it where we had
Mm,
one shot,
yeah.
and that really helped explode it and really made like a difference for people where people were feeling connected to the story. They're seeing the struggle. They could see how hard it was for me to walk that stage, which
Yeah.
again is another blessing. I wanted to walk across the stage on my own. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do it independently. I
Yeah.
wanted to do it on my own. But the fact that I couldn't do it, the fact that I had to depend and lean on somebody else and
Hmm.
being kind of unified and connected, and Emily helping me accomplish this goal also just made it catch on fire because people love the love story. They love someone being there to help someone in their one of their hardest moments. That's
Sure.
something that people take for granted for. So all these different like ingredients went into this moment just exploding that we could have never have predicted. That I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is a faith audience or not, but only God for me of just like how um, divine that was.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the part that was really like as I was watching the documentary, and I'm glad you recounted like what was going on in your mind. Like, people are gonna think, this is taking too long, or like hurry up and let's get the graduation over with. It's interesting that that's what was playing like in the soundtrack of your mind, and then the response of like the United States, basically, all the news media getting a hold of this are like, we want to like it was just an opportunity for to go from like you felt kind of discouraged about it to like way more impact than you probably could have ever imagined happened as a result of it, which is really, really cool. And yeah, like watching the documentary, like it was inspiring to see you like taking the steps across the graduation stage, but you could definitely see like it was a struggle. Like you were putting all of your effort and your attention and your focus into accomplishing that. And I think that's why, I mean, obviously that's why the audience just erupted. Like it was just like they saw your determination at play. Like it was on full display. It was very inspiring to watch. So yeah, again, like if you haven't watched the documentary, you need to go check out the documentary because it is super, super inspiring. It really is.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then the wedding walk too, like it was, pretty similar. Like we're doing a walk, but again, it was very different in the sense that with the wedding walk, we predict like, hey, we're gonna go 7 yards. 7 yards marking 7 years since my injury. It's 3 yards further than the graduation walk. But
Yeah.
this time we're gonna walk side by side, the
Mm.
same way we spend the rest of our lives together.
Yeah.
And as beautiful as that sounds, there was just one tiny problem. I had vastly underestimated how difficult side by side walking would be.
Mm.
In fact, the first time we practiced a side by side walk, because for those listening, Emily was people who would always walk with me were always in front of me, guiding me, and I was kind of leaning on them and using my arms as like kind of like an armrest and balancing beam. Well, if they're at my side, there's nothing to hold on to in front
Yeah.
of me. It's just like a little bit of support on my side. So it forced my muscles and my body to adapt and to strengthen in a way that I wasn't used to. And so when I tried taking my first practice step, I couldn't. I
Mm.
couldn't take one step. And so I was freaking out. But again, I just reminded myself of all the messages that we received
Yeah.
from the graduation with people who were counting on me, who were counting on my example. And even though like I felt like, and Emily agreed too, like we didn't need to walk down our aisle for us. It was never about us. It was never about like this love story, really. It was just about, what, like what a special moment to again to do this together, but also just give people again a hope in a dark world, it feels like. So we wanted to be that light. And so like let's do it. It's worth it. So I kept training, kept pouring, more time into it. But then leading up to this walk, People Magazine was going to be there. Good Morning America had already secured us to be like on their morning show. We had a documentary film crew that
Mm.
was filming it, and this would be the final scene was to walk 7 yards when I couldn't even walk 7 yards.
Yeah.
Uh, Great movie title, right? Uh, like going into it though, and like that day of the wedding, I couldn't have been more at peace.
Mhm.
Completely different than the graduation walk. The graduation walk, it was all up to me. Like I felt the pressure of the world of like I had to perform, and if I didn't perform, I'm a failure. Like I
Yeah.
had all these different thoughts going into my head, whereas this walk was like, you know what? I laid it all out there. Like I did everything I could. I got the girl, most importantly. Like this isn't about like proving something to people.
Yeah.
It's just about like, let's do this in service of love. Let's do like what we believe God's calling us to do, but just release any pressure, any like distractions that just take away from what that day is really about. And I couldn't have, yeah, enjoyed that moment more walking with Emily.
Yeah.
And fun fact that they never showed you on the documentary, because when we started walking down the aisle, something I just never calculated in my head when we practiced this walk was that I didn't tighten my belt tight enough, and my pants almost fell off walking down the aisle. And so, Emily had to like scoop them back up as they like got to my thighs, and she got in front of me hoisting them up, and she's like, "Pants coming down," and then she tightens everybody laughs. She's tightened my belt, and then we keep on going. It was just like a little, um, you know, off ramp to just fix the pants, and we went. But I like to share that moment just because uh, we laughed about it. We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I was in a different frame of mind, I'd be like, "Oh, it wasn't perfect." Like, beat myself up about it. And it's like,
Right.
hey, life happens. Like, it's all good. And yeah, it was a beautiful moment.
Tell us about Emily. Like how did you all meet? How did that whole thing play out? Because that was really special to watch in the documentary as well. But t tell everyone like how you met.
We met online. We just started talking. She was somebody that wasn't surface level at all. She just loved going like deep to the heart, like hard hitting questions.
Hmm.
I'd say like, within the first day of just casual conversations, instead of just like, "Hey, what's up? What are you up to? What are you looking up forward to?" She wanted to know like, "Hey, I saw you had this injury. Like, what was it like when you woke up the next day?" Just questions that people are like staying so far away from, like
Yeah.
questions that some of my closest friends might not even ask. But I actually genuinely appreciated that she had that curiosity and wasn't afraid
Hmm.
to ask those questions. I felt like it gave me a space to share, and I appreciated her kind of opening that up. And so it just like, I'm like, this girl's different. um, I like that. I really
Yeah.
like the depth that she had. It wasn't, again, it wasn't surface level.
Hmm.
And so the conversations just kept evolving, and we met in person. And I remember her we were meeting at this hot dog stand at Iowa State University. It's just kind of like a public spot where a bunch of college kids are at.
Yeah.
And I'm super nervous again. And I see her walking across the street. I'm like, okay, that's her. And I think my jaw like was hanging down. I had to pick my jaw up. I'm like, holy cow, like she's beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like her pictures don't even do her justice. And she's gonna come hang out with me. I'm like, this is like, keep it together. Like, act like you've been here before, brother. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Poker face. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're good. Like you got this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a fun night, and we just kept hanging out. And I guess, as they say, rest is history. But
Hmm.
Emily, like, just to know her, like she has this huge heart for helping others, serving others, especially those who have been through the foster care system,
Yeah.
children, people who just feel, lost and unloved. And she really wants to help them feel loved.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think it was in your bio, like you fostered, is it like 20 something children?
Yeah, 23 kids we have fostered to date.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then tell us about your family. How'd all that unfold for you?
Yeah, I would say we were engaged. We started fostering a little bit, and it just kept evolving. Like I kept thinking, like, Emma, you are crazy. Like what? Like to foster, like I just felt so like in over my head, but she's a believer, and when she gets passionate about something, she is a force to be reckoned with. And
Mm,
she just felt it in her soul and heart that we need to bring in a kid. And so we started out with like it's supposed to be like one kid for like a couple months. Well, then the one kid ended up having a sister. So then all of a sudden we had two kids. One was a baby, one was a toddler. And then it just kept growing. I felt like after they got reunified with their family, then it was like three siblings that came into care, and we got a bigger vehicle. We got like bunk beds. We got all of our like house prepared for these three kids. And then within like unexpectedly within a couple of weeks, they got reunified with family. And I
huh,
remember thinking, like, oh man, like we just got a bigger vehicle. We got all this, like, I felt like God was opening the doors for us to find these beds and these different like girl outfits. And because there were three girls.
yeah.
Well, then we get a call about uh, these two sisters. And as Emily's like asking questions about these two sisters, come to find out there's actually four sisters, but they were just trying to place two of them. And the two of them that they're trying to place, Emily actually knew and had a relationship with from a previous job when she was working at a group home.
Mm,
And the girls were there at the group home. Emily looked after them for about a year, but then they went back to their family. Emily left that job. Well, for it to come like full circle, she's like, this is a sign, like we got to not just take the two, we got to take all four. And I thought, again, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, how are we supposed to do this? And this is at a point too where my speaking career was really starting to build, and I was, traveling a little bit
hmm
more. And I just thought, like, I don't know how we're going to handle this. Like, how, like, I felt like God was calling me to go to the platform, to speak, to share my story, to use, yeah, this for a purpose that was bigger than me, and I didn't want to feel like I couldn't do that because the children are like leaving Emily with all the kids, but Emily was like, I got them. Like, I want you to go do your thing. I can do this thing when you're gone. Like, we'll be
Wow.
fine. Like, I'll never like guilt you or for having to do what you have to do for your career. And like, all right, like let's do it. And we did it. And then a year or so later, when the opportunity was right, we adopted those four sisters. And
Wow.
then a year and a half later, we again kind of another scenario of it was a medical placement. We're not medical foster home, but they couldn't find a home for this little boy who was born premature, 24 weeks.
Mm,
Uh, he was in the NICU for 9 months. At year and a half, he weighed, I think it was like 12 pounds a year and a
wow.
half old.
Wow.
Extremely malnourished.
Yeah.
And Emily just felt again in her soul like we got to take him. We got to do it. So we did. She's
Mm.
very persuasive. As you're seeing a pattern, very persuasive woman. I'm always like, whoa, 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 like this seems like above us, but
Yeah.
not for Emily. And anyway, that ended up becoming our son KJ, who then we adopted about a
Mm.
year and a half later, and he's doing extremely well. We were able to get some fat on the bone, and he's thriving. So that's how
Love
we
it.
have with our five kids.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, that's one of the things as I was watching the documentary, I was like, Emily is a saint. She is something special. And I know you said like when you put when you put your football helmet on, you turn into beast mode. And I was like, I feel like she's naturally in that element at all times. That's the way it appeared to me anyways, is she's just, she is an absolute warrior every day. She's obviously a champion for you, but she's
Mhm.
also got like bigger dreams and she's gonna do like she's gonna do the unthinkable. And that's really incredible to have her by your side for sure.
Yeah, and what's been like a really beautiful evolution too for Emily is that yeah, she's had this beautiful gift to like to serve and to give herself to
Hmm.
others, and she would also go to the expense of herself and not taking care of herself, where I feel like this new season of life, she's not only being able to like help and serve others in a greater way, but she's also taking care of herself that is allowing her to exponentially grow her impact, which
Yeah.
is also beautiful to see that you can take care of yourself um, without sacrificing your impact.
Yeah. That's good. I just have a couple more questions here. One of them has to do with the wheelchair. So Chris, what is something that people assume about being in a wheelchair that you wish they understood? It is completely wrong.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. One is that I think when people first meet me, the big thing is like he's in a wheelchair, like he's a quadriplegic, loss of movement, and I can feel like with like the questions and stuff that like I don't think about my wheelchair and my lack of movement like
Hmm.
every second of the day. It's not something like I harbor on. And
Yeah.
this is just my experience, but I get the sense of like it's something that what I feel projected onto me is that because they're thinking about it and it distresses them, that it's distressing me as well. Like when I pray, I'm not praying to walk again. I'm praying for what everybody else probably prays for of like family, health, and prosperity, peace, like all those things.
Yeah.
And that's what my mind is consumed with is those other things. It's not about my movement. It's not about my walking. I also have learned like, wait, this sure I'd love to be able to walk in. Like that would be fantastic. Like if someone gave you $1 billion, you would take it too. But I'm not gonna let not having this movement ruin my life. And so I just feel like I get the sense that people project onto me that man, life must be like really hard or miserable, but you just adapt. With any
Right.
situation, you get used to, you get familiar with it, and it becomes a pattern that doesn't wreck you
Hmm.
um, the way that I think people assume. I would say another thing too is like your wheelchair, like my wheelchair is like a part of my body in a way. Like it's an extension of me. It'd be like somebody's glasses, prescription glasses, right? So
Yeah.
uh, when people try like moving my chair without like permission or anything, it'd be like me fixing the glasses on your face. And you wouldn't do that, right? So
Yeah.
like what people do, like don't touch my chair, man. Like I
Yeah. Get off me.
yeah, like get off for real. So I'd say that's something that it's an easy thing of like, hey, like can I help like move you off to the side or like is it okay if I like touch your like you can ask or
Yeah.
whatever it is, but don't just be pushing me around, talking behind my back, man. So that'd
Oh,
be something. Um, and then I got some great wheelchair perks, right? Like you know, I don't have to ever like stand in long lines. I have a very comfortable seat. It's my own personal lazy boy that I get to
yeah.
bring with me everywhere I go. So whether it's like Disney World or airport security lines, people are complaining their feet hurt and their legs are tired. I'm just chilling, living the best life. You know,
Oh,
I
my
want
God.
tires. I can have my legs covered in mosquitoes like something out of a horror film, and I won't feel a single itch or bite. It's great. Uh, and then, another one that I love is like I get the best parking. Like everywhere I go, I got a front row. handicapped spot
Yeah.
waiting for me. But unfortunately, though, where I live in South Florida, the handicap parking is very competitive.
Hmm.
Very competitive. It's
Okay.
like NASCAR with handicap placards down here.
Oh man, yeah. That is funny. Chris, what's something that you've learned about mental toughness? Because I mean, if you're listening, obviously we can all hear like you are mentally tough, but what is something you've learned about mental toughness that most people will never have to confront?
I would say one of maybe the most like underappreciated or overlooked strength that I've learned to strengthen and develop is to ask for help.
Hmm.
I have to ask for help
Hmm.
for almost everything. And
Yeah,
I've learned that I can't just depend on myself the way I want to or naturally or inclined to.
yeah,
But the more I've been able to ask for help, lean on others, be more vulnerable with what I need, how much that not only enriches my life because I have somebody else there that can meet me with what I need and can
sure.
support in that, but then that person now has the opportunity to enrich the life of someone else, right? They have the opportunity to be there for someone because like who doesn't like to show up in a time of need for somebody else,
Right.
especially when that person can show gratitude for it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I just think, especially like leaders, it's something I see all the time with leaders. They're just they feel like they can't show weakness.
yeah,
They it it looks like they have to act like they have it all together.
right.
And, I'm trying to debunk that. I was like, no, it's not a strength. You can go further faster by asking for help, by showing you don't know all the answers, and allowing people to come in to
Hmm.
support you and support the mission. And then again, show gratitude, express gratitude. Uh,
Yeah,
it's just something that for mental toughness, I think that's really hard for people
sure.
to admit they don't know something or they don't have it all together. And I think that is key and why maybe some people also stay stuck because they're just not willing to get the help when they know
Right.
they need it, and stay stuck for way too long.
Man, that'll preach. That is really good. I know you mentioned earlier you said you go around speaking. Like where do you find yourself speaking? And like when you go to speak, like what are some of the main messages that you want to portray to audiences?
I speak, man, I speak all over, but a lot of times it's corporate America. It's groups that are experiencing a ton of change. There's
Hmm.
been massive disruption. They're going through something. And really, I think we're all going through changes. And while
Yeah.
everyone goes through change, not everyone grows through it.
Yeah.
Some people endure it, some people just, put up with it, where others can like see that opportunity to grow, to evolve. And so that's what I really show with my keynote is that power of growing through change and
Hmm.
using it as leverage because I believe change is our greatest teacher if we allow it. And so I use my story and I use like the lessons I've learned that they can incorporate with their own work, with their own life, where they can reshape, like look at the lens that they're looking at their change from a whole new way. That can be extremely powerful and change their whole life and
Hmm.
change their entire business and change their culture. So that's yeah, I'd say it's really geared towards that corporate America, but that message of change, right? I mean, I do student leadership groups, associations, like you name it.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really fun thing to just kind of
Hmm.
hone in on the topic of change, and then wherever group is really looking for um, that message around that topic and that inspiration and something where people are gonna remember, they're gonna think differently, they're gonna act differently, they're gonna laugh and they're gonna cry for that 45 minutes that I'm on stage,
Yeah.
and almost too like as an escape from everything that's happening, and they can kind of look at things with a new lens. I think it's
Hmm.
where I where I fit best.
Yeah. Well, Chris, when I interview guests, I always ask the question because the podcast is called Choose the Better Story podcast. And I always ask the question, what comes to mind when you think of that phrase? But I think if it's all right with you, I'm just going to switch this up a little bit. And I just want to encourage you that because you are choosing the better story. Like you, and for good reason, you could have just chosen to just accept what has happened and just survive every day. But I'm listening to like somebody that is wakes up every day with a sense of purpose. You want to make a difference, you want to make impact, and I'm truly inspired by that. The listening audience right now is truly inspired by your story, and I want to say thank you for like just being the person that you are. And I've just met you a few times in person. Again, it meant so much to me that you came up to me and asked me about my story. And I was like, my goodness, what is different about this guy is different. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show because like you came and showed an interest in me and my story with the, with the fire and all that. And I was like, my goodness, my story is nothing compared to what yours is. I'm trying to make an impact just like you are, but I just want to say like I'm not going to ask you the question what makes you think of, when you think of that phrase. I want to say like you are a living example of someone that is choosing the better story. And thank you for choosing the story of impact, of a greater sense of purpose, and for just going after this wild adventure called life. I am just truly inspired by it. It's really awesome. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I received that. I really appreciate everything that you just shared, and yeah, it's something that I have to choose every day, and that work will never end. Like there's still stories, better stories that I could be choosing, and
Mhm.
um, man, especially when you're in the trenches of parenting and marriage, like like
Yeah,
there's always something that there's always a story that could be better,
yeah,
um, but one that can take you closer to where you want to go. And
sure.
actually, I want to. There's a moment that had happened with my two oldest daughters. They pulled me into this disagreement that they were having. It was about a boy, and one daughter had started dating him, and the other daughter had clearly stated for weeks that she was completely over him. Spoiler alert, she was not over him.
Oh
Well,
no.
I did what any intelligent, emotionally attuned father would do, and I said, "What's the big deal?"
Yeah. How did that work out for you?
Those words should not be spoken. Remove them from the English dictionary. It set off a hormonal earthquake. Argument was elevated to DEFCON 5. And I had made the situation so much worse.
Yeah.
And it quietly reinforced the story that I've been telling myself was I can't help my girls with their teenage drama.
Mm.
So I rewrote my role that, you know what? I'm going to let my wife handle those situations. Well, as a result, then when these problems would come up, I would shrink instead of step up.
Mm.
And as a result of that story and that behavior that I was exuding, I was creating a story for them that, oh, like dad doesn't really care.
Mm.
Like he's not the one to come to. The exact outcome that I was so afraid of, I was now creating
Yeah.
because of the story that I was telling myself. And it just shows like how the dangers of the stories that we can tell ourselves
Sure.
and how we can shrink instead of step up. And so uh, the new story is I can help
Mm.
my kids with their teenage drama, and I may get it wrong, but like I'm going to try. Like I am going to show that I care, and I'm going to learn every single time I swing and miss. So I'm rewriting that story that I can do it. I am capable,
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be all on my wife.
right,
Uh, so I just because like we don't behave based on what's true, we behave based on the story we believe.
right.
So I'm believing
Hmm.
a whole story about myself, and stepping up as a father, um, here, these last couple of years. But I share that because I'm a work in progress too, Ryan. Like there's
Yep,
things that stories that aren't serving me to where I want to go and who I want to be. And
sure.
so I'm constantly checking those stories and challenging
Hmm.
those stories.
Love it. That was really good. I know one of the things as we've been kind of going through this coaching at Meta Performance Institute, we've been, going through the intensives and we've got all these resources. One of the words we hear often is this idea of max value. And I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you just to kind of close us out here, Chris. Like if there's anything that you feel like you want to convey to this listening audience, what do you think would be max value for them? What would you say to them?
Man, max value. I think if there's anything that I'd love for them to like do differently from listening to this podcast, I think, the first thing I would hope that they'll do is just take a tighter grip on their responsibility for what they can control,
Hmm.
and surrender what they can't control. And kind of think of me almost in those moments of barely lifting my arm, uh, barely moving anything in my body, but just focusing on what I was able to do.
Yeah.
The second thing I hope that they'll do a little bit differently is to choose to ask for help, and that it's not a weakness, it's wisdom,
Hmm.
and that the things that they might be carrying and holding on to just all by themselves, that they turn to a close friend, a relative, just somebody, that they feel like they can trust something vulnerable to,
Yeah.
and allow and then also be able to receive that help and allow people in who want to help you. And then that third part, then I would say, is I want people to challenge the stories that they're telling themselves, because I think it's easy to believe the story that we've been telling ourselves for years, a
Yeah.
story that we'll convince ourselves is very real, we treat it as fact when it's not. Like we don't know, and is I don't care if it's true or not, but is it resourceful, right? And so I think one of the best ways that I found to challenge the stories is to do the impossible, right? Go for those impossible dreams. Get outside what we've called the intuitive fence, the
Okay.
imaginary fence line that we've made up of what we believe is possible or not possible. And so whatever that's in that not possible realm, go for that goal and see what stories come up. See how you can challenge them and change a story, because you change your story, you change your life.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. Man, Chris, I thank you again for being willing to be a part of this. Where can people find you, Chris? Like, are you on social media anywhere, or where can people find you?
I'm more active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And also my website's chrisnorton.org.
Okay.
So if you want to learn about my speaking, books, movie, coaching, you name it, chrisnorton.org is your place to go. And you can also find where to go to my social media.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thanks again for taking your time. I know you're a busy guy, and we are super grateful and blessed that you took the time to unpack your story a little bit and just to broaden the amount of impact that you're having with your own story and making the best of it. And so, until next time, everyone, Don't forget to put your cape on and choose a better story. And like Chris suggested, one of the most courageous things that you could possibly do today or this week, hey, don't be afraid to ask for help. Maybe sometimes asking for help is the better story. So go out and make it happen today.
A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Choose the better story. Yeah.